China's universities have cut more than 12,000 degree programs, and they are redesigning their entire school system for artificial intelligence focused majors. We're going to look at what people call the holy grail of artificial intelligence breakthroughs, telling you where you lost your keys. Electronic Arts, the game company, actually released a new way for you to advertise directly into video games. As like, this is like another Google, right? I mean, if they build the plumbing for an entire ad marketplace that lives in three-dimensional space, I'm looking into it. We'll look at some thoughts from Rob Mason, take the 10,000-foot view, step back from the world of technology today, and figure out where are we? Where are we going, and where have we been? I'll break down the viral Economist post about how humanity is not ready for the upcoming intelligence explosion. I'll kind of share some of my thoughts on what they wrote. Author Tim Ferriss, who I remember reading his books like decades ago, and I kind of forgot. I know he's been a podcaster for a while, but he just wrote this thing about what AI is doing to the book publishing world. Then we'll get a little more philosophical about who should be benefiting from all of this change. David Kirkpatrick wrote The Sharing Algorithm If AI is Built on Humanity. Shouldn't humanity benefit? I'll share kind of the flip side of some of all of these AI tests that I'm always sharing, because there was a really stringent math test and humans actually won it. AI did not take the crown, even though we see all of these breakthroughs all the time. I mean, I don't know if they will be forever or how much longer, but today humans win. Some internet psychology that took me by surprise. Turns out harsh critics of things are usually the most loyal fans, especially of video game brands. But it actually kind of gives me a different perspective if they're actually the most loyal people. So over 100 cybersecurity experts are saying that the Fable 5 ban could backfire on the US. But experts are growing around one consensus, and that is China is starting to crush the US in terms of AI growth. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it. Certainly America has the lead in some very serious ways, but it's kind of wild how many edge cases we're starting to lose, especially when we have so much money and we had the head start, you know? Good old ChatGPT is now below 50% of the market share. And actually, after we talk about that, I'll dive a little bit into the big business of what's going on with this SpaceX IPO. It's a wild time to watch billionaires jockey for position, and it's pretty interesting positioning. And hey, when you're a trillionaire, it's like not even a tenth of your net worth, and you don't even have to pay for it. You just use your companies that have trillions of dollars. So I get it, just buy it. I mean, unless of course you care about citizens having any kind of say or control in our democracy, which nobody does. But look, Anthropic figured out the playbook about why coding is the single focus that you should be having, and everyone else got a little distracted with side quests. So we'll see if now that everybody sees what Anthropic sees, where it all plays out. But first, if you don't mind heading over to Dylan Curious, actually you're probably already there if you're watching this on YouTube, and hitting the share button, just like boom, share, copy, and send it to anyone. That would be super helpful. I know you guys did that on the last video, so thanks. It definitely helped. Look, you can see it did above average. Like by day 4, we almost hit 10,000 views. I made $77 on that video. That's crazy. I'm gonna get some food. Ooh, that's like 4 or 5 Chipotles. All right, so what are your thoughts? China is now cutting thousands of university degrees. I didn't even know there were that many, but they're thinking about an AI era, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's a lot of government control over school, but also we kind of need to get a little kick in the butt here to get ready for these huge changes that are coming. China's universities are making major changes to what students can study. The country is trying to line higher education up with a national development goal. And that is to dominate and win against the United States in the future of artificial intelligence and technology and many other STEM programs. Arts and language programs are being dropped while tech-focused fields are being favored. And it's what universities should do, right? They want to be preparing students for industries that are most important to the next decade. So that requires a national reshuffling of education amid the backdrop of a much more tech-focused future. All right, so if you've ever misplaced anything, which I think is pretty much all of us, I don't know how many, actually we should put in the comments, how many times a week do you lose something like your phone? Anything like phone or like scissors if I'm trying to open some boxes or something. I probably misplace things like a dozen times a week. Yeah, like a couple times a day or something. And it kind of sucks. I'm like, or especially my AirPods, they're actually probably maybe more than that. I'm always using the Find My feature where I'm like, beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, oh, it's on that side of the house. Yeah, that's right. But listen, people lose stuff all the time, especially groups of people working on construction sites or big companies. Like, it can just get confusing. You're focused on your work, you set something down, someone else uses it, whatever. If you think about it, AI with camera vision watching everyone should be easily able to just be queried. Hey, where did I leave my phone? If that information is in context, it will remember when and where it was lost. And even if it's just visually available, it should be able to just, hunt it down. So researchers are building robots that may soon remember places more like humans do, including where an object was last seen. And you can jump into the eyes of the AI to see the same thing that you should have remembered. So a worker can remember where she or he left a part in a factory last night, and a robot can do the same. A robot usually cannot do that well at this job because it struggles with memory that connects places and times together. But MIT researchers have built a new system to help robots learn that kind of memory. It is called DAM, but it's got extra A's in there, so it's not a swear word. It's DAAAM. It stands for Describe Anything, Anywhere, Anytime, Any Moment. Oh my gosh, actually the acronym is missing an A. It's DAAM. Wait, what? So one A is anything, second A is anywhere, third one is anytime, and then at any moment. You could have thrown a fourth one in there. They missed an opportunity there. But anyways, as the robot moves through a space, it builds a 3D map, but it also adds rich labels to what it sees as it's going along. For example, it could remember a bike rack outside of a campus building. Maybe it has 5 bikes on it, one red, one yellow, one with a flat tire, etc. The system then groups objects by location so the robot can answer in plain language where something is later. And that is a new AI system where you can ask a question like, where is the part that we started assembling last night? You don't even have to have it be something that it could tag. Like a part that doesn't even have a specific name, because it can figure out what you mean based on the context of it, knowing it was last night, knowing it was something you were assembling, and it can just eliminate all of those other choices. And it has a special system for choosing clear images, describing several objects at once, and avoiding labels on the same object again and again. And that actually was something that was really hindering some of the systems before this. So what do you think? Do you think that's too much privacy invasion, or do you just like the idea of knowing an AI knows everything about you and where you lost everything? All right, let's talk about this new EA advertising thing. Like, maybe if you're already in the game world, this isn't like such a surprise to you. Maybe there's been like ads kind of shoved down your throats for a long time, but I don't really play much games, so I was not ready for this. I always imagined EA was just going to make money based on the games that it sold. I kind of knew it was moving towards a world where there's like recurring fees, or maybe they like, charge you for skin upgrades or whatever. But EA is going to get into the ad business. Like, now they're going to fight for your attention inside of a game? Like, what? So Electronic Arts has launched EA Advertising. This is a new system that lets brands appear directly inside its games. That means ads can show up on stadium signs, digital billboards, scoreboards, broadcasting graphics, custom in-game items, and branded challenges. Is this going to ruin games, or is this okay? Or is it make the games better be free at least? The idea is to make ads feel more like part of the game setting in the same way brands already appear in real sports broadcasts. It says it reaches more than 120 million players each month. Oh my god, that's like the entire Super Bowl audience. It also says players are spending huge amounts of time in games like Madden, the NFL, EA Sports, where matches, seasons, and live sports style moments happen consistently. Like, you'd think if the NFL licenses the entire NFL to EA to make a game out of, wouldn't the NFL still own the brands, or can EA just do this? And what does this mean for the future of VR and AR, where everything's just being automatically generated? But yeah, the kind of architecture behind it already includes reward-based goals, vanity items, branded content, live events, creator tools, social play features, and community programs. Well, EA was the company that was just bought. It was bought, right? For like $60 billion or something. Was EA recently bought? And if so, who was the buyer and price? What was the logic? Yeah, okay, so $55 billion leveraged buyout, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. That's right, I remember talking about that. I wonder if this was their plan. Like, they were just thinking, gosh, it's going to be so valuable if we can take some of Google's profits from ads and get them into games. Honestly, we're like later in this video, we'll talk about SpaceX buying Cursor for 60 billion. It would not shock me at all if SpaceX purchased EA for this much money. Because I mean, he's talked about creating a video game company. And if you already have Cursor and you already have like a bunch of inference systems that you can take back from Anthropic anytime you want, you know what? That might honestly happen. Maybe EA implements this ad thing, generates some insane revenues, and then sells it for, what do you think, $180 billion to SpaceX in 2 years. There you go. That's my prediction. Let me know in the comments if you want to be on board with it. Over or under, happen, not happen, true, false, however you want to bet. All right, let's look at mid-June 2026. Where are we at right now in the landscape of AI? Because I mean, you know, if you watch this video, how fast it feels like it's been going recently. AI is moving fast, right? And I think you see cracks all over governments and like banks. I think young voters are now really thinking about it. Like it comes up sometimes with politicians in a way that it never used to. And Rob Mason kind of broke this all down for us. So in one major AI lab, Anthropic to be precise, they published a plan that threatened mass job losses as a real possibility. We talked about this in the last video too, universal basic income, public wealth fund, some of those things. Timing was obviously messy because they're also trying to go IPO and they want to look like super profitable and super capitalistic at that time so that, you know, cha-ching. So critics were asking whether this was real policy support or just smart IPO positioning, basically being like, we're going to gobble up all that value, invest now. And then a few days later, government says no more Fable 5, take away your like frontier model. Here's where we're at. The government sometimes is like totally hands off. We just want, you know, business to like go. It feels like kind of a corrupt government. Nobody's going to stop anything. And like just big companies and K-shaped economies are going to happen. So the government has sounded hands off on AI, but then it's used national security power to control access without clear legislation with all of this mythos stuff. Europe and the UK are reacting by taking it more seriously, but they're talking about sovereign AI, meaning they want to control their own advanced AI systems and they're trying to keep money inside their own borders. There's definitely a lot of fences going up all over the world. And at the same time, US senators, major banks, young voters, they're all moving into the debate in different ways. And some companies are just openly talking about AI replacing roles through automation. And it's just, it is their fiduciary duty, I suppose, but it also just doesn't resonate well with a society that's coming into the workforce. Young people are becoming less excited and more angry about AI. So we'll have to see what happens. So just on top of like where politics and technology are intersecting, there's also just a natural trend, right? That this is like Ray Kurzweil has been talking about it forever, and we're getting into the hockey stick part of it. So this article is called Humanity Isn't Ready for the Coming Intelligence Explosion. And it's a classic talking point on this channel. AI leaders and everyone who's enabling them are moving humanity towards a race that is making smarter and smarter machines. And it's doing that without a real serious, good, trustworthy safety plan around it. Tons of emergent properties, tons of things that can't be predicted when systems are actually live and in people's hands, tons of things that are completely unpredictable when different agents are acting with different intentions and different goals in some kind of like bigger system. So could AI be advancing, becoming more dangerous, faster than governments are ready for? Absolutely. That's probably likely, not just a possibility. The article is comparing AI risk to nuclear risk. Nuclear plant is expected to have a tiny chance of a disaster. You know, a lot of people disagree with it, and there's smart people that disagree with it, so I wouldn't, bank on it. That's just what feels right to me, and I'm sure a lot of new technology felt a lot scarier than it was when people first heard about it, before it was implemented, before structure came, so it might move down, but, the concern is not just coming from outsiders. It's coming from industry insiders, too. Some of the people inside the biggest labs, especially like recursive self-improvement. I mean, you can see Anthropic and Musk moving towards it at the same time worried about whatever happens when self-improvement is AI writing its own next model, then generating it, and then it writing its own code. I mean, this is why a $60 billion investment in Cursor might be nothing to SpaceX in the long run when it's a, $100 trillion broke the economy kind of company. And once there's an intelligence explosion, if the guardrails aren't good, there might be no way back. How are you gonna, there's this metaphor once where somebody said, go up on the top of a hill and cut open a pillow of feathers and let the wind carry those feathers away, and now go put them all back in the pillow. You can open it up pretty easily. You can just take a knife to it, cut it open, let all those feathers out. But to actually put them back together, it's a much harder problem. And evolution and growth like this, like actual intelligence in the way we see it in the biological world, once it gets going, you don't just go back. So The Economist is now arguing that America and China in particular, because these are the two countries controlling the vast majority of this progress, need to create serious AI safety agreements right now, not based on trust, based on verification, based on inspections, based on clear red lines. If you go a little too far and slow down progress, so be it. Like, we'll have plenty of time when these things are exponentially growing to reap the benefits. But really right now, biological weapons, cyber attack, fraud, child abuse, like there's child abuse material like being generated, like all this stuff is coming really fast. So the article ends with a warning that civilization may fail when powerful tools grow faster than their ability to govern them. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say pause, right? Like I've never quite been a pause AI guy, although if I could magically just stop everything right now, I would. I just don't really think of any realistic way to just tell everybody like pause and to have important people pause and have that be a good outcome. But I kind of do agree that maybe just big governments right now getting serious about like red lines might, and inspection, like getting all of that system in place for inspections might be a really smart move now. I know bureaucracy is bureaucracy, but like let a bunch of people see what's going on behind closed doors and like force their hands as much as you can. Like one good thing about China and America, if we both let each other kind of look and see, there would be stealing and there would be copying, but on the other hand, we'd be seeing, you know what I mean? Like those conversations would get out, and when super dangerous things happen, everybody might be aware of it at least. Let's go talk to Tim Ferriss, the 4 Hour Work Week. Like I remember he was like in my world, like a little cultural phenomenon a couple decades ago. I haven't heard much from him, but he actually mentions the 4 Hour Work Week, which was like his self-help book from a long time ago, and how it's been selling and how the industry is getting crushed. So having him talk about AI, I found sort of surprising. So his core argument is that AI may be collapsing the market for how-to nonfiction because people increasingly want the answer, not the path there. And that's interesting. Like, is that another byproduct of using these LLMs all the time? So if a book's main value is to tell me all of the steps that I need to take, and a chatbot can now feel faster, cheaper, more personalized, and more convenient, what's the point of self-help books? But Tim Ferriss is also arguing that the real separation is between information and transformation. So information is something like, give me 5 steps to lose fat. But transformation is, walk me through a carefully designed journey that makes me actually change. And that difference matters. Chatbots can spit out fat loss protocols in 15 seconds, but Tim's example is when he took the 4 Hour Work Week, which is this whole body transformation thing, and distilled it into some bullets and then sent it to friends, none of them acted on it. But thousands of readers who followed the full book's journey felt what they needed to like incorporate the information deep enough to actually change their lives. So when I read this, and then I started using LLMs like I always do to, I was doing like moving some stuff around and trying to figure out how to like set up everything. I was at the end thinking, did I actually learn how to do this for someone else? And I thought to myself, like, kind of not, right? Like if someone else asked, can you help me with this? I would say like, yeah, bring up ChatGPT and then ask this question, and then it'll walk you through the steps. I think we went here first, and I would follow it again. I wouldn't actually be able to tell them. So I didn't process it, and it kind of freaked me out. And he's saying that prescriptive nonfiction is getting hit really hard. So he says that his own print catalog may be down about 80% compared to the 2022 year. So there's clearly less people just buying books, but self-help he thinks is especially vulnerable. Eventually, the same threat is going to be extended to YouTube, like the videos I make. Like you might not get as much out of this whole thing as you could just like go down to Gemini and distill this into like 5 news bullet points or interesting thoughts and then move along, you know? Like I understand maybe some of you would want to do that. Podcasts, courses, newsletters, advice blogs, like I guess if you just want to extract actionable information instantly, that's a better route to go. Next up, let's talk about the sharing algorithm. If AI is built on humanity, shouldn't humanity all benefit? David Kirkpatrick. So he's arguing that AI didn't really come out of nowhere, right? Like, artificial intelligence was built from human language, books, music, code, art, research, news, questions, jokes, years of public investment. Lots of people posting things on social media. But then companies built powerful AI systems, and all of a sudden that work mattered for training. So if AI creates huge wealth, should only the companies that invented the thing that sucked it up and learned from it benefit, or should all of us? I mean, the idea that a shared resource creates wealth that the public can own seems like one of the kind of futures that we almost inevitably will fall into. Like, humans, the interesting things humans do, the data that we make, like, that could be pretty valuable. I do think synthetic data is actually going to make everything people do kind of, not as important as we'd hope. I don't know how long human data will matter, but it probably will always matter, maybe at least enough that companies could somewhat pay taxes, or the government would be rich enough or something that there could be some kind of universal basic income. And I will say, for a long time, I actually thought what's going to happen to AI is they're going to digest the internet. Like, OpenAI was the first to kind of grab it. And then I thought maybe right after them, Google and a couple others. And then they're going to produce so much garbage on the internet from chatbots that there won't be anything to put into the system. But over time, I have come to just think that, synthetic data I think it actually works. There's different novel ways to pull data off the internet. There's different ways to generate language in a way where it seems like the systems do learn. In some cases, maybe they do kind of move to the middle and don't like have that massive creativity, but also, I don't know. I got a feeling that's not going to be as obvious as I once thought. Especially with like physics simulations and stuff like that, and diffusion models of just like, okay, you can actually kind of come up with some pretty unique random stuff to learn from over, even though you generated it. It's weird, but it seems to work. You just kind of iterate towards better and better. But in some cases, humans still matter. How about this one? Humans outperform AI on this highly rigorous mathematical test. This is good. I thought we were going to get crushed after reading all these, like, Math Olympiad was destroyed by OpenAI and by DeepMind. But a project called First Proof gave AI models a very hard math exam. This was not the kind of school math. This was 10 research level problems from mathematicians' own work. The problems were completely unpublished at the time of testing, so the models could not have just seen the answer and repeated them. 30 mathematicians checked their answers, and that made this test very different from any of the earlier AI math demos that have ever been done before. This was new work, it was done without human help, and it was judged by real experts. 4 AI systems took this test. OpenAI entered ChatGPT 5.5 Pro, and then the university teams built automated systems called harnesses on top of chatbots like Gemini and Claude for testing also. The harnesses asked the models questions, checked the answers, and pushed to improve. Now, the best system was ChatGPT. It was GPT 5.5. It solved 6 of the 10 problems. It did not match human top mathematicians. The results showed AI can help with serious math, but not yet a full replacement for human expert problem solving. Wazing. What do you guys think about that one? Humans still in the lead. All right, also had a new epiphany that some of the harshest critics, potentially even not just in games, but like in my comment section, might be the most loyal fans. I thought the harshest people were just like, I was like, geez, guys, like, just chill. But no, harsh critics are the most loyal fans of video game brands. Study shows. A new study looked at the way video game fans stay loyal to brands like Call of Duty and Battlefield. And instead of bringing people into a lab, the researchers used AI to study more than 23,000 Reddit comments. They wanted to see how loyalty shows up in real fan communities, and the results were not what people expected. There wasn't one clear pattern either. So Call of Duty fans showed loyalty through emotion, stories, and shared memories. But Battlefield fans showed it through skill, technical details, and respect for how the game works. I was like, wow, these are really deep communities, like different languages, same deep loyalty. And the most interesting finding is that harsh criticism is usually a sign of commitment. Fans do not always complain because they hate the brand. They complain because they're invested and they want the game to improve. The same person who tears apart a flaw may defend the broad movement in an outsider attack. So the researchers are telling brands, like, you should stop trying to silence useful criticism. Like, they're always trying to cut. Remember the was that Cyberpunk, that release? Everyone's like just tearing on it. Like those people probably really wanted the game to be good. They also learned that like fake corporate language like really pisses off fans. So maybe try to be a little more authentic when you talk to them. But either way, food for thought. So let me know in the comments. Do you think that the Mythos pullback was actually good for the United States in their position in the world? Do you think it's good for companies to not have cyber threats? Or do you feel like it actually made us weaker? Because there's some debate, could go either way. But there's this open letter signed by hundreds of cybersecurity experts that asks U.S. officials to lift export controls on Anthropic's Fable and Mythos AI models. The writers say that AI is already changing cybersecurity and it can help find software flaws and write exploits, which are the tools that attack those flaws. But they argue that Anthropic's models are not uniquely dangerous. The major and open source models can already do similar work. Their concern is that taking strong AI tools away from the defenders gives an advantage to the attackers. Or do you think that the attackers not having it make them weaker? You know what I mean? It's so tricky. They're arguing that security teams need these models to find and fix bugs in new code and old systems before the adversaries do. The letter also says that Fable already had strict protections against offensive cyber use. So banning access in total, in their view, just creates the market fear and weakens American AI without leading to any clear risk reduction. So consensus is growing that China is crushing the US at AI. There is a few things that AI in the US is still clearly in charge of, in front and leading the pack. In terms of raw intelligence, the frontier models, and the amount of money spent on infrastructure, we're definitely winning. But global opinion is shifting the AI race away from the United States and towards China. So a poll by Public First asked people in 15 other countries which nation they think is leading in AI capability and innovation. And in 11 of those countries, respondents said that China has passed the United States. And what were the countries that still thought the United States was leading? Well, one was us, the United States, so we think we're doing great. Also, Vietnam, India both also agree with us, and same with Japan. But even inside the US, confidence was not strong. Just 51% of Americans said their own country is leading. So just 51% is like barely over half of us. Canada, Mexico, France, United Kingdom, they're all thinking that China's beating us. It also reflected a certain frustration with American AI models, which the article describes as corporate, extractive, and hostile towards workers. These countries saw China as a country that presented itself as having stronger competition and more people-centered regulation. The main claim is not that like China is ahead. It's that the world's trust is moving away from the United States and towards China. And that creates a legitimacy problem for Silicon Valley. What do you think? Are you, out of the 51%, do you lean towards thinking like American AI is, I don't know, more people-centric, or it's going to be better, less extractive? I mean, obviously it's not going to be like less corporate or less extractive. We're the United States, but is it still winning, or in the long run, do they have a better sort of pipeline built? I don't know. I'll make this one quick, but just so you guys know, ChatGPT is now under 50% for the first time. So what's going on here? I want to dive into it a little bit. I'm also going to touch on the Cursor and the Codex and like what companies are doing as far as they're positioning each other. And what exactly was $60 billion? Like, just that's so overvalued in a non-AI world. That is so almost undervalued in the long-term thinking of an AI frontier model play. So it's just the whole if you buy the story that like AI is the invention of intelligence and whoever gets there first gets like so much reward, then you know what? That makes sense. And honestly, like, probably no matter what you buy at this point, if you truly believe that's the story, you could justify it. I mean, like, realistically, you have to even kind of wonder if SpaceX, what's it trading at, like 2 trillion market cap, and then Tesla's another 1.5 trillion. So if you take all of that, Elon's in chart, and plus like Neuralink and all these other things, he's got to be coming up on $4 trillion worth of buying power and $1 trillion personal wealth. You know, and if OpenAI just goes public, if Anthropic goes public at $1 trillion, like maybe he could buy both of those companies or one of them and just merge them in or something. So, you know, I don't know who's big enough really. I feel like Google and maybe Microsoft are too big to be acquired, maybe Meta, but we might be coming down to like in the long run, and might not be that long. Like, I'm thinking just 2-3 years, we might see some crazy consolidations. Like, there could be a true merger between like Meta and Microsoft or something, because there's something happening with like Google and SpaceX. I think Google owned a bunch of SpaceX stocks, so they're like tied into that a little closer. But let's look at this article. Michael Spencer, Jeff Morehouse wrote, Codex, Cursor, and the Great Beyond. OpenAI will be put under pressure by Meta AI, SpaceX, and China, not just Anthropic's enterprise AI momentum. So there were less than 60 people that owned the stock for Cursor. So $60 billion made them all billionaires, which is like mind-blowing to me, because it's a fork of VS Code. It was like an open source software, and it was awesome. And it was a way to just plug large language models in and code. But, you know, they built an amazing tool for enterprise, and it just has so many people using it, and it has such an interesting information loop, and it's so valuable to an AI company like SpaceX that's behind Anthropic in terms of coding. And if you believe coding is the flywheel effect, where if you get code right, then you can catch up on everything else. Like, there's no need to have a video model right now or an image model, just code. And then we'll code everything that we need in the future. And then it'll code some super advanced model that does even better video and audio or whatever, all these side quests that you want to tackle. Like, it will just code them all up for you and you will win them all. But it puts OpenAI, which now is under 50% market share, in a strange position. Like, they seemed untouchable a couple of years ago, but they're under pressure from every side. And now Soar has been canceled, and Stargate, it doesn't feel like they're going to get as much money as they thought. And, you know, there's all this other competition going on. So ChatGPT, no doubt about it, still has a huge reach. But I mean, I don't find myself in it as much as I ever used to. I mean, first off, that whole ad thing was bothering me. But also, when you're in Chrome and there's Gemini right there, and you're kind of in a Google workspace, or you're in a Microsoft 360 workspace, they have their own models where you're going to go to. When you have questions inside Meta, they have their own unique data source. And ChatGPT still has its spot, but it just, I don't know, it does feel kind of like, I got this sense that Google's in the best position in the long run. That's my main bet. But I wouldn't be surprised, especially with SpaceX having like essentially infinite money and having so much extra compute. I mean, Elon built so many servers so fast, and they really are valuable. Like, I think he's paid off all of them just with the money he's getting from Anthropic. So that was like an insanely profitable decision to just push those things out. Then China as a whole can mount pretty good, you know, a little bit of that communism there can like really just force companies to work together and try to take on individual companies in the US, which might force individual companies to go to these like crazy mergers. But anyways, ChatGPT still has huge reach, but the article says that its market share is failing because Gemini, Claude, Meta AI, SpaceX AI, and Chinese models are putting that pressure on them from every direction. Really, Meta should have made that. If Zuckerberg was serious, he's spending a lot of money on talent. Like, they probably should have bought Cursor. Maybe Microsoft should have bought Cursor. I mean, they already have GitHub, which is pretty powerful. So maybe I understand why Microsoft didn't. But Cursor already had fast revenue growth, strong use among software engineers, and a product people trusted. And that makes it a direct threat to OpenAI's Codex plans. Codex used to be simple. It was OpenAI's coding assistant. You gave it a software task and it helped turn that idea into code. But now Codex is expanding beyond programming. AI wants it to handle broader work across tools like Gmail, Calendar, PowerPoint, and computer use. And don't get me wrong, this is probably the right move for them. I just don't think they're going to pull it off. I just think that's hard. But if I was Sam Altman, I also actually would be doing this, because you don't want to think small at this moment. Maybe they'll have something that kind of carries them through the day, but the risk is execution. If OpenAI can merge ChatGPT and Codex really seamlessly, if they can somehow make the average person just sit down with the tool and start kind of accidentally dreaming up things that are coded into reality and hosted and profitable, and it really is like the Apple moment for them, they might be able to continue this route. If not, I think the walls are closing in on them. I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone there is going to end up being a billionaire, and like ChatGPT won't just be gone, but it's not. Sam Altman's moment to potentially outdo Elon will be gone. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend. You're on YouTube, there's a little share button right there. Please send it to somebody, but if not, leaving a comment, hitting that hype button, if you guys remember that, thumbs up, all that stuff. Like any interaction with the video helps, and just the fact that you're still here watching it means a lot to me. So thanks, and I will see you in the next video.